Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving Home Podcast. I'm Jay Norman, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jessie Norman. Just like many of you, Jay and I have both walked through some difficult seasons in our lives.
And we know just how easy it is to get stuck.
We now have 5 beautiful
and crazy
children, and because of everything we've been through, our home operates on grace.
A concept we didn't fully understand until way later on in life.
Until we actually needed it ourselves. We want to share through stories of love and laughter,
How we were moving on and how big of a game changer grace can be.
in relationship with one another, and how we treat ourselves, and in our case, blending a family.
Something that may just require the largest amount of grace to date.
Preach.
You never know what road life's going to take you on. We have a podcast.
Yes, we do, and we really hope y'all enjoy it.
Well, babe, we're at episode 6. Back recording tonight. And how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm cold. I'm chilled to the bone.
We have been standing outside, showing off our puppies.
Yeah.
One of our dogs had 13 puppies. Mm-hmm. Yes, 13. And they have been kind of terrorizing our yard and our other dogs.
And our lives.
And our lives.
And our livelihood.
And it's been cold weather, so we've had a lot to do with every night. And we have started getting people today to come look, and we have given away, I think, 7 today, and my wife kind of pulled a fast one.
We didn't give them away. We made some money on them.
But you pulled a fast one on the last group that was here right at dark, so I think you need to tell that story.
We had a couple here, and they had their little girl and their little boy, and they seemed like they wanted so many different ones, but they couldn't decide. And so they ended up wanting one of the gray ones, and he kept telling me this one that he liked. Well, then they kept calling his brother and sister, or just family, wanting, and then a friend, and trying to call these different people, trying to help us. It was so nice of them. So they didn't really deserve what I did. But so they ended up picking 2 and paying for 2. And they went to their car, and I went and I grabbed that one that he kept having his eye on, and I pretended to buckle his little girl in, and I shoved it in her coat.
I loved it.
And the boy, they did, they're not going to keep a secret. So the boy is like, "That lady gave us another puppy," screaming. And I just kept walking to the house yelling, "Bye, bye, you guys, goodbye," because they had been at our house for a long time. They became friends. And so I kept saying, "Bye, bye." And they laughed and shut the doors and drove out the driveway.
So 13 minus 8, we got 5 to go.
5 to go. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but we've got about 8 people wanting to come tomorrow.
But this is our last litter of puppies, correct, babe?
It's very much our last litter, but I really cannot believe we found homes, because when we woke up this morning, we had homes for 0.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how we were going to find 13 homes.
And so tonight we were going to talk about fear, and my fear is that we were going to get stuck with 13 puppies for the last 7 weeks.
Mine too. That was not surprising to me, and I just kept thinking maybe a shelter can help us, and I just couldn't find anywhere to take them. We had so many friends say, "I don't want one and I don't need one, but if that puppy shows up at my house, I will feed it." So that was a list I was starting.
Yeah, hopefully we won't have to use any of those. Lucky guys.
Oh, that's funny.
That is.
I cannot believe it. That's why I'm in such a good mood, because I just can't believe we found homes for all 13 of them. No. And we need more puppies. We had people fighting over certain ones, and still have too many people coming tomorrow for the amount of dogs we have left.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, right?
It sure is.
Yeah. So something I was so nervous about and so scared about, and just thinking the outcome was going to be so different, of course, pulled a switcheroo on me, and everything, as per usual, is fine.
Yeah, turned out how it was supposed to.
Yeah, and that's the theme of my life. You would think that I would be, learned by now, but nope.
Yeah, by the seat of our pants, and it worked out.
Yeah.
It sure did.
So tonight we were talking a bunch this week about fear, and how fear can be so crippling in our lives. Fear has kept us from doing things that we've wanted to do in our lives. Fear has shelved passions of ours. Fear has pushed back timelines of ours. Things can just be so just scary, and you can get frozen. And we just want to talk about times that we've had that and then actually walked through some of the things that we really were dreading or scared of occurring, and how when they finally did happen, we were fine. It was fine. We were fine. It was nothing that we had built up in our minds.
Right. And I think you go through it all the way back from a kid to, going out for a sports team or,
Right.
Going all the way through. And for me, working, I think it's something that making a big decision or making a big investment. It's something that sometimes hard to step out and do it.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is. It takes a lot of bravery, and I think the bravery is from practice. If everything were easy or came easy, we'd all have it. But I feel like our lives are set up to where we really do have to get out of our own ways to achieve the things that we're wanting to achieve. And fear is right there in the center. I always tell the kids, everything you're wanting is right on the other side of the really scary parts.
Right.
And so I wish I could help you skip that part. I wish I could take that scary part away for you, but I can't. It's not even an option.
Has to be done.
Yeah, has to be done. So just put your head down and move forward and go through it.
Well, and, I mentioned those things about doing that as a kid and your job and stuff. But for me, going through everything we've been through, divorce and being a single parent and some of the things that went on then, that was has been more scary for me than anything I've ever done.
I'm telling you, I agree. When Dusty and I separated, as a divorced couple, we decided that we wanted to get our children into a smaller school. And I had gotten my real estate license, and so it was kind of funny. Here I was, a real estate agent, helping my ex-husband find a home for him and my children. Right. And so
hard to say, huh?
It is, isn't it? That's weird, man. That's what my dad would say. Yeah. That's weird, man. But anyway, so we landed on a smaller school. And when it came time for them to start school, you just have all of these fears. Like, what if what if I ripped them away from the school that they are comfortable in? And I know my fear, I just went straight to bullying. Like, what if I'm taking my kids from being wonderful little, not popular kids, but just thriving and doing great, and I put them in this school, and now they're the kid that gets bullied.
Right. They have a spot in school if they've been there a long time, and they go to school and they don't have that spot anymore.
And you know this too, because your children switched around that year or the year after. And so just a huge fear of mine would be, because of Dusty and I's decision to get divorced, that now, again, our child would suffer from it because we put him in a different school. And so anyways, I get the call, and Liza has come home upset. I think she would have been in first or second grade. And so I go over there, and she laid in my arms. It was her first day of school, and you're just so nervous. Are they going to hate it? And if they hate it, you feel like it's your fault. She laid in my arms and she bawled her eyes out, like that sad, sad cry. Not that annoying cry that you're like, you need to toughen up or suck it up. That sad cry that you would go buy him a pony or something, She bawled in my arms for 45 minutes, and I just thought, this is my nightmare coming true. This is my child hurting because of something I've done. Yeah. It was horrible.
Pretty hardcore.
It was horrible. She just kept crying and saying, no one would play with me. No one would play with me. Oh, it was horrible. And what had happened is she had met one friend the whole morning. And so all of recess, she looked for that one friend. And when she finally found her, they called them to go inside. So it was like kind of that emotional, find her and it's over. Yep. And so it was just, sometimes she's just like me. Sometimes she just gets wrapped up in that. And so anyways, it was like, just the nightmare coming true. And I'll never forget it. The second day was one of the best days of her life. She came home, and she was so thrilled with who she had met and the school and the games they played and how fun recess was. And it's not like it even took her a week or a month to get over that. It was day 1 was hell and day 2 was the best we could ever have.
Right.
So it just was such a huge lesson that we just walked through it. You know, we made it. We've still got all our parts. And, you know, yes, it was going to be scary if it happened, and it did happen, and it was scary. But it's life. And the next day was just as amazing as that was horrible. And it kind of took that fear away from it, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, and I think that was a one-day deal. And, you know, I had one that was maybe a lot longer than a one-day deal. But at some point, it does become business as usual. And, you know, they get to the right spot and find the right people, and they're able to go on.
Yeah, and hopefully forget the bad parts.
Right.
You know, because we don't remember our day-to-day second grade. And so that's a prayer that I have as a mama, that God would just take away those bad memories, you know.
Right.
So,
well, you know, for me, when I talk about fear and what we've been through, when I got a house myself and had 2 kids there and trying to figure out how to make them happy and take care of them. You know, my biggest fear was them just both saying, or one of them saying one night, you know, I just don't want to be here.
oh, yeah.
You know, I want to go back to Mom's.
Right.
And so you worry about that, and you worry about it happen, and ultimately it does happen.
Yeah.
And it did happen, and it was rough.
Right.
But it happened, and I survived, and they survived, and it wasn't that they didn't love me. They just were ready to see Mom, or something going on that, you know, they were in a better place to be with Mom. And,
right.
And it happened. We got by it. And the next time it happened, it wasn't a big deal. And, you know, ultimately it really hadn't happened a whole lot. You know, it happened real recent, but it hadn't happened a whole lot since then.
Right. It hasn't. 2 things while you were talking. One, I think we've talked about it before, is the value or the meaning that we put on stuff, how incorrect it can be. And so if they ask to go to their moms or to their dads, then they don't love me. And that is not, that's not true whatsoever. Right. It could be if they ask to go to their moms or their dads, then they want to go to their moms or dads. You know, it can be something that simple that has absolutely nothing to do with you.
Well, and I think when we're in that position, we build it up in our minds to a lot bigger than it is just from the stress.
Mm-hmm. I know. And then the second thing is just how they say, you know, you don't see things the way they are. You see them the way you are. And so it's like when you're looking at things, we have such a, you know, internal view on them. And so if they want to go to their moms or they want to go to their dads, how nice for their mom or how nice for their dad. You know, we don't know. You know, say it's a Sunday night and we've had them all weekend and their other parent has just had a struggling weekend where they've missed the kids. And maybe that is something that we just really need to get out of the way and get the kids to them. You know, in some form or fashion it happened, whether the kids asked and we got them there and that was a survival for the other parent. And that's what we would wish on the other side of it, you know.
Well, and too, in that it can be a positive thing because it can come back to you in the other way, and you just have to think that way, you know, that my turn will come, and, you know, it's not my turn tonight, but it may be the next time.
To me, babe, you staying so attractive to your children by being that calm, patient, consistent, solid dad that you are. You know, not getting your feathers ruffled, not throwing a tantrum when they want to leave your home, not showing all of this crazy emotion that causes anxiety in the home. That's so attractive that's why it hasn't happened so much, is they do want to be right by you. Right. I mean, if we're on the couch, one of them's on one leg, one of them's on the other. I mean, we all just sit in a pile, you know, because they want to be on Jay. Jay wants to be by me. Mine want to be on me and on Jay and by the kids. And we all sit in a big old, like our puppies, big old puppy pile.
Right.
And I think that's because you are so just solid, you know. It's just attractive to them.
Thank you, babe.
You're welcome.
That was nice.
And so, what else? I know we're working our way up to my big story because I want to just talk and have fun and laugh. And this one can get kind of heavy, but I feel like this one does need to be told. And this is when we were going through our divorce. We were in separation and in counselors' offices and in struggle for a good 3 years. I was in that phase for a very long time because my family doesn't believe in divorce. So I knew that I would either stay with my ex-husband and get to keep my family. And I have a family of about 23, 24. And I knew that I would either get divorced and lose them or stay in that marriage and get to keep my family. I knew it was an if or. And so that was always in the back of my mind for a few years. I never could really walk forward. And I always believe in timing. So I think that timing was perfect because I know that we needed to walk through those different seasons. But either way, my dad, he's the king of our family. And, we know to go to him first. And so I remember the night I knew it was over. We weren't in a huge fight. I just knew this is it. This is it. And so I drove to the Walmart parking lot, and he answered, and I said, and I mean, mind you, this is me calling my dad to tell him goodbye. And God, it's awful. But I remember just saying, Dad, we are going to get divorced. And he said, okay. And I said, well, I just want to know where I stand with you. And he said, I'm not following you. And I said, where do the kids and I stand with you? Are we disowned? And, and he said, I don't even know where you, would have gotten that. And frankly, I'm bothered that you even said that. And, he said, Jesse, we know that what you guys have been through, it's over, turn the page and move forward. And he said, if you show up at this house, we are going to be the first ones to welcome you and welcome the kids. If Dusty calls this home, he's the father of our grandchildren. He is always welcome to call these phones. He's always welcome in this house. And it just was more of it was just the opposite of what I expected to get.
Yeah.
I was calling to tell my daddy, and I'm such a daddy's girl, and so to call him and tell him goodbye and tell, 23 members of my family goodbye, and to get the opposite, which was support. It was just incredible. I remember I just turned the car back around and went back home. I was driving by myself, and I was screaming to the Lord, thank you, Lord, just screaming and crying and screaming, just praises of just a wild, crazy person, screaming, hallelujah, hallowed be your name, thank you, Lord, thank you. I just felt like I had been released from all of the fear that was crippling me for 3 years, I was so stuck and chains on and heavy and not myself and not the mom that I could be because I was so scared of losing my family that I couldn't move forward.
Well, and I think that goes back to what we talked about, is that ultimate ideal that your mind had given you that had put you, you were so gripped with fear you couldn't even think straight. Because of me sitting here after being married to you for 2 years and being around your family, I can't fathom how you come up with that mentality, knowing all of them and knowing how they are and knowing how much they love you, each and every member, and especially your dad.
Right.
That's just, that's hard to take, that you had to think that way, or that your mind got you in that spot, but...
Or that our children would ever think that of us.
Sure.
And I think that's the horror that he felt that night.
Sure.
Where did you even get this? It wasn't from him.
Yeah.
There was never a moment where he said, if you get divorced, you're not in this family anymore. It's what I had made up.
Yep.
So for me, that was something that bound me in fear probably more than anything in my life. And so to be able to walk through that, I mean, I'm the one that made the decision that I'm driving to the Walmart parking lot and I'm going to tell my family goodbye. And I don't know, it was just, I felt like I really grew as a woman that night because I faced it head on. And in the end, the bonds in our family have never been stronger.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about that all the time.
We do. Yeah, everything comes full circle and
Right.
comes back to correct itself and make it right.
It does. Not that God is the God of divorce, but God is the God of brokenness.
Yeah, healing where it needs to be healed.
Yeah.
So this week we went to a new Bible study with some friends and attended, and we had a friend there that kind of got us on this topic of fear, and it brought us to the spot of our kids going to different schools. She was fixing to move her kids to a different school, and she was really worried about it, and we kind of told her what we had been through, and it got us on that topic, and it got us on another topic of people that were there. They kind of felt like they were our people, and we're always. We say that a lot, if we go to a rodeo and we see somebody, they're like us, those are our people, and that's something we say all the time, and we're always looking for that group.
We are. It goes both ways. Going back to the Bible study, I just kept looking at the kitchen table and going, how is this possible that out of the 5 couples here, we all have a 7th grade girl? What are the chances? And it just felt so ordained to have those families that were sitting right there. Some of them had been invited last second and just got there. And it was so calming to sit there and talk about scripture with them and talk about our lives with them. And we've been blessed with some amazing people in our lives and just the neat ways that God brings them in there. But also to know who isn't our people. And that doesn't mean that those people are bad people or less than us. It's just they're not your people. That's what Jay tells me often to kind of counsel me if I'm going through something, and he'll say, Jess, they're not your people. Yeah. Those aren't our people. And it's a really helpful way to go through your life and realize that you aren't for everyone. And I know when I was little, my sister told me, you can walk into a room and immediately someone can hate you because you remind them of somebody. Right. And so it's not they hate you and now that means that you're a bad person and you should figure out a different way to be. You're just not for everyone, and that is totally okay. And not everybody walking around this earth wants to support what you're doing, wants to support your family, wants to be a part of your life, wants to dig you. Those just aren't our people. And so it's something Jay and I say a lot is, we've had friends that we thought would be our biggest supporters of the podcast. And it's been crickets. Yeah. And Jay will say, not that those aren't our people, but in that case, he'll say, those aren't our listeners. Right. And it's a really helpful, healthy way to look at it. Right. So,
well, I think there's different situations that,
you can apply it.
Right. And I mean, for whatever you want to talk about, there's people that, that support you a certain way. Yeah. And it goes back to, everything we've been through. We had people that supported us and people that didn't. Wasn't necessarily that they disliked us or picked a side or anything. It was just a situation. They backed out, and then you had the ones that were right there the whole time and with their arms around you saying, it's all going to be fine.
And those are our people. Yep. When I first met with a company about our podcast, it was the first brave step I made. Yeah. And I called and I poured my heart out and just told everything. I was so scared because it's such a scary process, such a scary thing to try to describe your idea to someone because they're not going to get it. They don't know what you're talking about. It's yours. It's your baby. And I remember I just called the company. They were going to help me produce it and market it. And when I was done with my whole description and poured my heart out, they said they had to go. And they didn't say, let's reschedule or oh, I'm so sorry, or I'll call you back. It just was that they had to go.
Yeah, not your people.
And I just remember being so shocked, just sitting there in my chair like, did that even just happen, And just the humanity of...
It was easy the next time, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
And, I was saved from that company.
Right.
What if that company would have put on a huge front face for us and we would have gone with them, and then, oh goodness, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight,
Yeah, did you a favor.
Yeah, for sure. Those are not our producers.
No, they're not.
We love our producer.
Definitely not your people.
That's not our people.
And I think that goes back to, that's that situation that you were worried about, and the fear of doing all that, and it happened and got you through the next time. And I mean, we look back at everything we've been through, and it's been at basketball games, at first and holidays, and all that stuff that, it's just groomed us for where we're at now, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I saw today that it said 70% of second marriages end in divorce, and the 30% seem to be the strongest marriages out there because of what they have to endure. Right. And that's not to brag about our marriage. That's just to say it ain't no walk in the park sometimes,
Maybe we should call something 30% or something.
30%ers.
I like that.
I do too. I loved reading it. I was like, yeah, there were 30%ers. We had a funny thing happen this weekend with putting the mirror up above the fireplace. We have a really tall ceiling in our living room, I guess like 20 feet peak.
Yes.
And this really heavy, it's like a 300-pound mirror that I wanted to put up there. It was up there, and I stupidly took it down just because I was trying to make the house my own. So I was trying to change it from how it was, and the mirror came with the house. And lo and behold, the mirror looks perfect there, and so I wanted it back. And we took about, 2 hours to try to get it up there, and almost accidentally got divorced. Huh.
Pretty close.
And we joke, but I came in the bathroom and just sat on the floor and just cried and just lies filling my head, like fear. Why do you have a podcast? You fraud. You fraud. You want to divorce your husband over a mirror. I want to say a bad word and I caught myself. Over a mirror, you want to divorce your husband, and you're going to go sit in front of a mic and talk about dropping the rope, and you can't even put up a mirror. And so I was so low and just crying and just upset, and, that emotion had taken over. And my phone dinged, and I pick it up. And it's a message from somebody that means so, their family means so much to me. And I haven't even gotten to be around her since I was a little girl. And just sent the most heartfelt, encouraging note to us about the podcast. And I just don't think that those little things are coincidental. Because, it was the moment where I just needed the Lord and my phone dinged. And why? Why in that moment, Yeah. And I just think he's so neat. And I'm so thankful for the ways that, because our faith is strong and we can go to him in prayer, but sometimes it's just so nice to have something that we can hug or hold in our hands, And when he sends us those things that we can hold in our hands, I just think that is such a solid thing from him.
Right. Well, you're getting an answer to what you were thinking right then, not having to wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
It is. Well, in all fairness, we did need a 4 foot taller ladder, and at least one more person.
I don't think I could be on the farm with you. I'm really just thinking that now. I wasn't really all in with you about the way you wanted to go about that. I wasn't. I'm going to be honest with you and tell you.
That's real surprising.
Yeah, they say some couples can't work together like that, and I don't think maybe we should again.
I still love you.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. What else were we wanting to... There was something else.
Well, today we had
Oh,
a situation with one of the kids where we got one wanting to play spring basketball, and a coach had inquired about her playing and took her to a practice, and you know more about it than I do. You talk to them, so I'll let you kind of finish it from there. But it kind of goes back to that kid kind of conquering fear and, kind of what we've been talking about tonight.
Well, my uncle is a pastor in Tulsa, and when I told him about our podcast, I just told him, we want to talk about grace, and we want to spread grace, and we want to teach our children grace. And I remember he said the best way to teach your children grace is to let them walk through the hard stuff. Don't take the hard stuff away. Let them walk through it, which is so impossible. We had gone... Sunday, they had invited her to basketball practice with the 5th graders. Liza's in 4th grade. So for about 10 days, she has just been on cloud 9, excited that she's going to play with the 5th graders. And we get there, and it was 3 just fantastic coaches that were working with them one-on-one and real serious about it. So there was just a really neat energy in the gym. They fitted her for her uniform. I just kept telling her, baby, these are 5th graders, so you have to make a name for yourself today. You have to stand out. You have to go 120% today, or you're just going to get lost. It was a big group, and she did. They were using her to illustrate stuff. They were calling her Miss Basketball Superstar. I mean, she was beaming by the time.
She was on fire. Yeah.
She was so, when they get hyper because they're happy. She was so hyper by the time we got to the Bible study. And she was like, Mom, I love it. I love them.
Yeah, and that was one kid that we had problems that wanted to play basketball all the time, out of all of them.
She seems to be really good at basketball and doesn't like it. Yeah. And so for her to actually find a team that she was like really enjoying herself. And so anyways, long story short, they call today and say she's not on the team. And there was a miscommunication, and one coach thought that they were going to take the best players, and he knew Liza would make that cut. But in the end, the other coach only allowed the older ones to stay, and he cut the 2 younger, which was Liza. Right. And so anyways, I knew that we would have to call her and let her know. And gosh, it was awful. I was like... even thinking in my head, should I run to town and grab her and take her to Target, or one of those things where, just like Uncle Terry said, let them walk through the hard things. I was wanting to bypass it and go straight to Target.
Yeah, you were wanting to show up with the pony.
Yes, I still feel like doing that.
Yep.
So I called her, and she sounded okay, and she cried, and then I cried, but I didn't let her hear me cry. And just told her, I don't want you to think that you didn't make a name for yourself the other day, because you really did. And I don't want that to be the lesson you take away. I want the lesson you take away to be that some things in this life stink and are unfair, and this is one of them. Yep. And but the funny thing about it is I have a text thread with my mom and my sisters, and so I couldn't decide whether to tell them or not. I didn't know if they would think it was silly. And I texted it to them. And it was like you had told the mafia about it.
Coach is going to have a horse head in his bed tonight.
The muscle came out. My mom and my sisters, God, they totally came to the rescue with their words. Their words were so funny. Yeah. And I think my mom said something like, someone needs to pay. And I'm like, they what? It was so supportive to me as a mama. As I took care of my baby, my mom and sisters took care of me, and it was just neat, Yeah. Those are my people.
Well, and that's what I was just sitting here thinking. That's kind of, drove home the point to me. The more we've talked about it and thought about it and talking about it tonight, is that, as you go through and things happen, you really do look back, and you can figure out and reflect on the ones that truly are your people, and that show up and do what you want to do, and come at those oddball times and stuff like that. And it's really, I guess, over the last 3 or 4 years, there's it really has stood out, and it's something that I think about and before, that before I never did.
Mm-hmm. Your people delayed our podcast recording tonight. Yahoos.
Is what it is.
You got some people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you got anything else tonight?
I don't think so.
Well, as the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you.
I love you too. We sure appreciate y'all listening today. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can search for us, Moving On Podcast. That's 3 words, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We would love to hear from you. With ways you're figuring out how to drop the ropes in each of your own lives, and even ways that you're not, hell, that's just as entertaining to us. See you in a couple of weeks.